Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Learn English Quick Hub. I am your host, Paul Hauser.
And I am Shirley Jones. We are so incredibly happy that you're joining us today. Whether you are listening on a long bus ride, commuting on the train, or just relaxing at home, we are thrilled to have you with us.
That's right. Today is a very special episode because we are kicking off our brand new Daily Life series. We wanted to start with a topic that is close to everyone's heart and stomach. Today, Shirley and I are talking about my favorite comfort food, and we're going to spend a lot of time describing exactly how these foods taste.
Oh, I am so excited for this, Paul. Just thinking about the topic is making me hungry. But before we dive into our favorite dishes, maybe we should talk about what comfort food actually means. For me, comfort food is something that makes you feel safe, warm, and happy. It is usually something you ate when you were a child, or something you eat when it is cold outside and you just want to feel cozy.
I completely agree, Shirley. Comfort food is like a warm blanket on a cold winter day. It's not just about eating to get full, it's about the feeling the food gives you. And a big part of that feeling comes from the flavors. When we talk about food in English, we use words like salty, sweet, and spicy.
Exactly. And finding the perfect balance of those flavors is what makes a meal so unforgettable. So, Paul, I have to ask, when you have had a long, tiring week and you just want to relax and eat your ultimate comfort food, what is the first thing you think of?
Oh, that is easy. Without a doubt, my favorite comfort food is a giant steaming bowl of homemade beef chili.
Oh, chili. That is a fantastic choice, Paul. I can almost smell it. How do you like your chili?
I like my chili very, very spicy. For me, a good comfort food needs to wake up my senses. When I make chili, I use a lot of chili powder, fresh jalapeno peppers, and black pepper. The taste is very sharp and hot. When you take the first bite, it almost burns your tongue just a little bit, but in a really good way.
Wow, that sounds intense. I like a little bit of spice, but I think my eyes would water if I ate your chili. Does the spicy flavor overpower the rest of the dish?
That's a great question, Shirley. No, it doesn't, because underneath that spicy heat, there's a very deep, rich, and savory flavor from the beef and the tomatoes. But the real secret to my chili experience is what I put on top of it.
Oh, you have to tell me. What are your toppings?
I add a huge handful of salty tortilla chips. The crunch of the chips mixed with the soft beans and meat is perfect, but it's the saltiness that really matters. The chips are very salty. When you combine the extremely salty taste of the chips with the spicy, hot taste of the chili, it creates an amazing balance in your mouth. The salt actually helps to calm down the spice just a little bit.
That sounds absolutely delicious, Paul. The combination of salty and spicy is always a winner. It makes you want to keep taking another bite, right?
Exactly. The salt makes you thirsty, the spice makes you warm, and you just keep going back for more. But wait, I have one more secret about my chili routine.
Another secret? Please share it.
To make it the ultimate comfort meal, I always serve my spicy, salty chili with a big piece of sweet cornbread on the side.
Sweet cornbread? Oh, now that changes everything. So you have all three flavors happening at once?
Yes, the cornbread is soft, buttery, and distinctly sweet. It almost tastes like a piece of cake. So I'll take a bite of the hot, spicy chili with the salty chips, and my mouth is on fire. Then I take a bite of the sweet cornbread. The sugar and the sweet cornbread instantly cools down the heat from the spicy peppers. It's the perfect cycle. Spicy, salty, sweet, and then back to spicy again.
That is such a wonderful way to describe it, Paul. I love how you pair the very intense, spicy heat of the peppers with the gentle, calming sweetness of the cornbread. It really sounds like a complete experience, not just a meal. Do you usually make this chili yourself, or do you have a favorite restaurant that makes it just right?
I have to make it myself, Shirley. Cooking it is actually part of the comfort. Standing in the warm kitchen, smelling the spices like cumin and garlic filling the air, the whole house smells incredibly savory. It takes hours to cook slowly on the stove. How about you, Shirley? Does cooking your comfort food bring you that same feeling of peace, or do you prefer something you can make quickly?
For me, it depends on the day, but my ultimate comfort food is definitely something on the sweeter side. I think we are opposites in that way. When I need comfort, my brain immediately thinks of sugar, butter, and something warm from the oven.
I had a feeling you were going to say something sweet. You always have the best recommendations for bakeries around town.
I do have a serious sweet tooth, I can't deny it. But my favorite comfort food isn't just sweet, it actually plays with the salty flavor too.
Oh, I'm very intrigued now. A sweet and salty comfort food. You have my full attention, Shirley. I am ready to hear all about it. What is this sweet and salty masterpiece?
Okay, picture this, Paul. It is a cold, rainy Sunday afternoon. I am sitting on my couch feeling completely relaxed. The whole house smells like warm vanilla, butter, and melting chocolate. My ultimate comfort food is a fresh, warm batch of homemade chocolate chip cookies. But there's a very important twist. I sprinkle thick, crunchy sea salt right on top of them as soon as they come out of the oven.
Oh, wow. That does sound absolutely incredible, Sherby. I can perfectly imagine that wonderful smell. Vanilla and chocolate baking in the oven is simply one of the best smells in the entire world. It immediately makes a house feel like a home. But tell me about the taste. Why do you add the salt on top? Does it make the sweet cookies taste too salty?
Not at all. That is the true magic of this recipe. When you take your very first bite, the cookie is incredibly soft, warm, and deliciously sweet. The chocolate chips are completely melted, and they have a very rich, sweet, and slightly bitter taste. The cookie dough itself is very sugary and buttery. But then, just when you think it is going to be too sweet, you taste one of those little flakes of sea salt.
And what happens then? How does the salt change the flavor?
It completely wakes up your mouth. The sharp, clean taste of the salt actually makes the sweet chocolate taste even sweeter and richer. It's a sudden burst of salty flavor that cuts right through the heavy sugar and butter. It balances everything perfectly. Instead of just tasting one flat, sweet flavor, you get a dance of sweet and salty in every single bite.
That makes a lot of sense. It's very similar to why I eat salty tortilla chips with my spicy chili. The contrast makes the food so much more interesting. If something is only sweet or only spicy, you might get tired of eating it. But when you mix two strong flavors together, like sweet chocolate and salty sea salt, it keeps your taste buds excited.
You hit the nail on the head, Paul. That is exactly why I can never eat just one of these cookies. The salty and sweet combination is incredibly addictive, and the texture is important too. The cookie is very soft and chewy, almost melting in your mouth, but the sea salt provides a tiny crispy crunch.
Now you are really making me hungry, Shirley. I usually prefer savory and spicy foods, as you know, but you're making those cookies sound like heaven. Do you eat them all by themselves, or do you have a favorite drink to go with them? When I have my chili, I always need a huge glass of ice water to cool down the spicy heat.
Oh, the drink is a very crucial part of the comfort food experience. I never eat my salted chocolate chip cookies alone. I always pour a large glass of ice-cold whole milk. Or if it's a very cold morning, I'll make a large ceramic mug of hot coffee with a little bit of cream.
I see. So how do those drinks change the taste of the sweet and salty cookies?
Let's talk about the cold milk first. Milk has a very mild, slightly sweet and creamy taste. When your mouth is full of rich, intense chocolate and sharp salt, drinking cold milk washes everything away and cleans your palate. It's extremely refreshing. Plus, dunking a warm cookie into the cold milk softens it even more.
Dunking cookies in milk is a classic comfort food tradition. It makes you feel like a kid again, doesn't it?
Exactly. It brings back so many warm memories of my childhood. But if I'm drinking hot coffee from my favorite mug, it's a completely different experience. The coffee is dark, strong, and a little bit bitter.
So you're adding a bitter flavor to the sweet and salty combination. That's fascinating.
Yes, the bitter taste of the dark coffee is the perfect partner for the sweet sugar in the cookie. The strong coffee flavor cuts through the sweetness, and the warmth of the drink makes the chocolate chips melt even more in your mouth. So you get sweet chocolate, salty sea salt, and bitter, warm coffee all mixing together. It's an amazing flavor journey.
Surely, you might have just convinced me to start baking. I love how you describe the balance of flavors. It shows that cooking and eating are really about finding harmony, whether it's the sweet cornbread calming down my spicy chili or the bitter coffee balancing your sweet and salty cookies. The best comfort foods always have layers of different tastes.
They really do. And talking about all these different tastes makes me realize how wonderful the English language is for describing food. We have so many great adjectives to explain exactly what we are experiencing. Words like rich, creamy, bitter, sharp, savory, and sweet help us paint a picture for the listener.
That's a great point, Shirley. When you're learning English, practicing how to describe your meals is a fantastic way to improve your vocabulary. You eat every day, so you have multiple chances every day to practice using words like spicy, salty, and sweet.
I completely agree, Paul. It's a delicious way to learn.
Speaking of learning, Shirley, I want to ask you about a different kind of flavor. We have talked extensively about spicy chili and your incredible sweet and salty cookies. We even touched on the bitter taste of coffee. But what about sour flavors? Do you have a comfort food that features a sour taste?
Oh, sour. That is a very interesting question, Paul. Usually, we do not immediately think of sour foods when we think of comfort. We tend to lean towards sweet or savory. But actually, I do have one. It is a very specific type of soup that I order from my favorite restaurant when I'm feeling a little bit under the weather. It is hot and sour soup.
Hot and sour soup, that is a brilliant example. It perfectly combines spicy heat with a sharp sourness. How would you describe the sour taste to our listeners who might not be familiar with it?
Sour is a taste that almost makes your mouth pucker or squeeze together. It's very sharp, bright, and acidic, like a fresh lemon or vinegar. In a hot and sour soup, that distinct sourness usually comes from a dark rice vinegar. It's a very vibrant flavor. It cuts right through the thick, rich, and savory broth of the soup.
I love how you describe that, Shirley. The bright sour vinegar really balances the earthy, deep flavors of the mushrooms, the bamboo shoots, and the tofu in the bowl. And then, of course, there is the spicy heat. But it's a different kind of heat, right? The spicy kick comes from white pepper instead of red chilies.
Yes, exactly. It's a totally different kind of spicy than your famous beef chili, Paul. Your chili uses red chili powder and fresh jalapenos, which create a deep, burning heat that lingers on your tongue. But the white pepper in the hot and sour soup provides a very sharp, quick heat. You feel it more in the back of your throat. It's very warming and clearing.
That is a fantastic comparison. White pepper versus red chili peppers. They're both categorized as spicy, but they feel entirely different when you eat them. This is exactly why describing food is so much fun. There's always a new layer of flavor or a new sensation to discover and talk about.
So, Paul, we have now covered spicy, sweet, salty, bitter, and sour. We've basically talked about all the main flavor profiles you can experience. But I want to change the scenario a little bit. I know you travel quite a lot for work and for fun. When you are on the road, maybe driving for hours or taking a long train ride, what is your go-to comfort food? You can't exactly make a big pot of simmering, spicy chili on a train.
That is very true, Shirley. Cooking on a train is definitely not an option. When I'm traveling, my comfort food has to be highly portable. It has to be something I can easily carry in a bag or a simple container. And I've noticed that I always crave something very salty and very crunchy when I'm driving long distances.
Salty and crunchy. Let me guess, are you a big fan of potato chips?
That is a very good guess, and I do enjoy them occasionally, but no. My absolute favorite travel snack is a big bag of heavily roasted almonds. but they can't be just plain almonds. They have to be roasted with a generous amount of coarse sea salt and a heavy dusting of smoked paprika.
Smoked paprika. That has a really nice, savory, and slightly smoky flavor, doesn't it? It gives the nuts a bit of a barbecue taste.
It really does. The almonds themselves have a very mild, naturally nutty, and almost slightly sweet flavor. But when you roast them in the oven, they become incredibly crunchy. The loud crunch is actually a big part of the comfort for me when I'm driving. The repetitive crunching keeps me awake, focused, and alert on the highway.
That makes perfect sense, Paul. We often forget that the physical texture of the food is just as important as the taste. The hard, crunchy texture of the roasted almonds mixed with the dry, salty, and smoky seasoning is very satisfying. Do you have a specific drink you pair with them?
Just a simple, large, reusable water bottle filled with ice-cold water. The salty and smoky coating on the almonds makes me very thirsty, so the cold water is incredibly refreshing. It washes the salt away and prepares my mouth for the next crunchy bite. It's the perfect, simple combination for a long journey. What about you, Shirley? What is your favorite comfort snack to pack when you're traveling?
Well, since you go for salty and crunchy, I usually go for sweet and chewy. I love to pack a small bag of dried mango slices. They're naturally very sweet, slightly tangy, and they have a wonderful, thick, chewy texture.
Dried mango sounds delicious. It's like natural candy, and the chewy texture probably lasts a long time, which is great for a long trip.
Exactly. It takes a while to eat, so it's a very relaxing snack. The natural sugars give me a nice boost of energy, and the sweet tropical flavor makes me feel like I'm on a vacation, even if I'm just sitting on a crowded bus.
That dried mango sounds like the perfect travel companion, Shirley. The chewy texture is such a great contrast to the crunchy almonds I love. We have talked a lot about crunchy, soft, and chewy today.
Texture is just as important as taste when we talk about comfort food. If you eat something with a texture you do not like, it ruins the whole experience, even if the flavor is good.
I completely agree. And that brings me to a texture we have not discussed yet, but it is a massive part of my next favorite comfort food category. That texture is gooey.
Gooey, that is such a fun word to say. Gooey. It means something is soft, sticky, and usually melting, right?
Exactly. When I think of a gooey texture, I immediately think of melted cheese. And that leads me to the ultimate rainy day comfort food, a classic grilled cheese sandwich paired with creamy tomato soup.
Oh, Paul, you are speaking directly to my heart now. A grilled cheese sandwich with tomato soup is an absolute classic. It is the definition of comfort. But how do you make yours? Everyone has their own special method.
Well, for me, it's all about the contrast between the crispy outside and the gooey inside. I take 2 thick slices of white bread. I spread a very thick layer of rich yellow butter on the outside of each slice. Then I put 2 slices of sharp cheddar cheese in the middle.
Sharp cheddar is a brilliant choice. It has a very strong, slightly salty and rich flavor that stands out against the simple bread.
Yes, exactly. I place the sandwich in a hot frying pan. The butter sizzles and slowly toasts the bread until it turns a beautiful golden brown color. The outside becomes incredibly crispy. It actually makes a scratching sound when you tap it with a knife, but the inside, the heat gently melts the cheddar until it is completely gooey, soft, and stretchy.
That sounds perfect. When you pull the sandwich apart, does the cheese stretch out in a long string?
It certainly does. That stretchy, gooey cheese is the best part. When you take a bite, your teeth break through the loud, crispy crunch of the buttery bread, and then you reach the soft, warm, salty cheese. The combination of crispy and gooey is just amazing.
And we cannot forget the tomato soup. How does the soup fit into this crispy and gooey experience?
The tomato soup is the perfect partner. The soup is very smooth, warm, and creamy. It has a slightly sweet and slightly acidic flavor from the tomatoes. The acidity of the tomato soup cuts through the heavy, greasy butter and cheese.
Do you dip the sandwich into the soup?
Absolutely. That is the only way to eat it. I dip the crispy corner of the sandwich right into the hot red soup. The crispy bread acts like a sponge. It absorbs the sweet and savory soup.
So for a few seconds, the bread is both crispy and soft at the same time. It's a completely wonderful feeling in your mouth.
You are making me want to leave the studio right now and make a grilled cheese sandwich, Paul. You painted such a clear picture. The crispy, buttery bread, the gooey, salty cheese, and the smooth, creamy, sweet tomato soup. It's a masterclass in flavor and texture.
Thank you, Shirley. It really is a simple meal, but the combination of those simple elements makes it incredibly satisfying. It warms you up from the inside out. Do you have a comfort food that features that wonderful gooey texture?
I definitely do, but my gooey comfort food is on the sweet side, of course. We talked about my chocolate chip cookies earlier, but if I want something truly gooey and rich, I bake a large pan of fudge brownies.
Oh, brownies. Those are fantastic. But getting the texture right can be tricky, can't it? Some people like them very dry and similar to a cake, and other people like them very dense.
Yes, I am definitely on the dense and gooey side. I don't want a dry brownie. When I bake them, I take them out of the oven just a few minutes early. The edges of the pan get slightly crispy and chewy, but the very center of the pan stays incredibly soft, heavy, and gooey.
So the center is almost like warm chocolate pudding.
Exactly. It's a very deep, rich, and intensely sweet chocolate flavor. The texture is so soft that it almost sticks to the roof of your mouth. It's very heavy and decadent.
That sounds incredible, but it also sounds very rich. Do you eat them plain or do you add something to balance out that heavy, sweet flavor?
You know me too well, Paul. I always need a balance. Because the gooey brownie is so hot, heavy, and sweet, I always serve it with a large scoop of freezing cold, plain vanilla ice cream right on top.
The classic brownie sundae. That's a brilliant combination of temperatures.
It's all about the temperature contrast. The brownie is hot and gooey, and the ice cream is freezing cold and smooth. The hot brownie starts to melt the cold ice cream immediately. The sweet, creamy white vanilla melts and mixes with the dark, rich, warm chocolate. Every bite has hot and cold and gooey and smooth all at the same time.
That's a sensory explosion, Shirley. You get the hot, rich chocolate, the cold, smooth vanilla, the crispy edges of the brownie, and the gooey center. No wonder it's your comfort food. It demands your full attention when you're eating it.
It really does. You can't be stressed or worried about your day when you're eating a warm brownie with cold ice cream. It forces you to just sit, relax, and enjoy the delicious flavors and textures.
That's the true magic of comfort food, isn't it? It's not just about filling your stomach, it's about slowing down, enjoying the simple pleasures, and treating yourself kindly. Whether it's a salty snack in the car, a spicy bowl of chili at home, or a gooey sweet dessert, these foods give us a moment of peace.
I could not have said it better myself, Paul.
That is so true, Shirley. Comfort food gives us a moment of peace and a chance to just breathe. And I think a lot of that peace comes from the memories attached to the food. When we eat something that makes us feel safe, it is usually because it reminds us of a time when we were actually safe and cared for. Usually that means our childhood.
I love that you brought this up, Paul. Childhood memories are the foundation of comfort food. When we're young, our taste buds are so sensitive, and everything is a new experience. The foods we loved back then stay with us forever.
Exactly. So let us travel back in time for a minute. If you close your eyes and think about the very first meal that made you feel incredibly happy and comforted as a little girl, what do you see and what do you taste?
Oh, that is easy. I instantly travel back to Saturday mornings in my grandmother's house. I would wake up very early, and before I even opened my eyes, I could smell the most amazing combination of scents coming from the kitchen. It was the smell of frying meat and melting sugar.
Frying meat and melting sugar. That is a very interesting combination, Shirley. What was she making?
She was making her famous weekend breakfast. Thick, fluffy buttermilk pancakes and extremely crispy, salty bacon.
Oh, wow. Pancakes and bacon. That is the ultimate weekend breakfast. The smell alone is enough to wake anyone up with a smile. Tell me about the tastes. Let us start with the bacon.
The bacon was incredible. My grandmother cooked it in a heavy iron pan until it was dark red and almost completely stiff. It had a very loud crunch when you bit into it, and the flavor was intensely salty and savory with just a little bit of a smoky taste from the fat.
So it was very crispy and very salty. And what about the pancakes? How did they contrast with the bacon?
The pancakes were the exact opposite. They were huge, soft, and very pale yellow. The texture was light and spongy. By themselves, they had a very mild, slightly sweet and buttery flavor. But the real magic happened when she brought out the maple syrup.
Ah, the syrup. That is where the heavy sweetness comes in, right?
Exactly. She used real dark maple syrup. It's a very thick, sticky, and heavy liquid. It has a very deep, rich, and sugary taste, but it also has an earthy, woody flavor to it. I would pour a huge puddle of the sweet syrup right in the middle of the soft pancakes.
I can picture it perfectly. The soft pancakes acting like a sponge to soak up all that rich, sweet syrup. But wait, how did the salty meat fit into this sweet breakfast? Did you eat them separately?
Never. Eating them separately would ruin the magic, Paul. I would take a piece of the extremely salty, crispy bacon and dip it directly into the puddle of sweet, sticky maple syrup on my plate.
You dipped the salty meat into the sweet syrup, so you created your own sweet and salty combination even back then.
Yes, long before I discovered sea salt on chocolate chip cookies, I was dipping salty bacon into sugary syrup. The contrast in my mouth was amazing. The sharp, savory saltiness of the pork mixed perfectly with the heavy, sticky sweetness of the maple. And the textures fought each other in the best way. Loud and crispy bacon against soft and spongy pancakes.
That sounds like a wonderful childhood memory, Shirley. It's amazing how clearly you can remember the exact textures and flavors. It proves how strong the connection is between taste and memory.
It really does. I can still taste it if I think about it hard enough. What about you, Paul? What's the childhood meal that brings back those warm, safe memories for you?
For me, the memory is tied to the winter time. I grew up in a place where it snowed a lot. My friends and I would spend hours outside building snowmen, throwing snowballs, and completely freezing our fingers and toes.
I remember those days, playing in the snow until you cannot feel your face, but you're having too much fun to go inside.
Exactly. But eventually, we would get too cold and have to go back indoors. We would walk into my house, take off our wet winter coats, and immediately smell my mother's kitchen. She always knew when we were freezing, so she would have a huge pot of creamy chicken and wild rice soup simmering on the stove.
Creamy chicken and wild rice soup. That sounds incredibly warming. How did it taste? Was it very salty like your favorite foods are now?
It was very savory and perfectly salty. The broth was not thin like water. It was thick, rich, and heavy with cream. It coated a spoon thickly. The chicken was cooked until it was completely soft and tender, falling apart in the bowl.
And what about the wild rice? Does wild rice have a different texture than regular white rice?
It absolutely does. Wild rice is longer, darker, and much firmer. Even after boiling in the soup for hours, it keeps a slightly chewy and crunchy texture. It also has a very distinct, earthy, and almost nutty flavor to it. It's not plain like white rice.
So you had the rich, smooth, salty cream broth, the very soft chicken, and the chewy, earthy wild rice. That's a wonderful mix of textures for a cold winter day. Did she add any spices to it, or was it a very mild flavor?
She actually added quite a bit of spice, which probably explains my love for spicy chili today. She didn't use red pepper, but she used a massive amount of freshly ground black pepper.
Black pepper can definitely add a strong kick if you use enough. It has a sharp, slightly bitter heat.
Yes, it provided a very sharp, biting heat that gathered at the back of my throat. It wasn't enough to make my eyes water, but it was enough to instantly warm up my freezing cold body. I would sit at the kitchen table, holding the hot ceramic bowl with both hands, letting the heat sink into my frozen fingers.
That's such a cozy picture, Paul. Holding a warm bowl is half the comfort of eating soup. Did you have anything to drink with it, or did the soup warm you up enough?
Well, if we were going back outside to go ice skating later, my mother would pack a hot drink for us to take to the frozen pond. She would fill a large insulated jug with homemade hot chocolate.
Ooh, hot chocolate by a frozen pond. That's picture perfect. Was her hot chocolate very dark and bitter or very sweet and milky?
It was incredibly sweet and very milky. She used milk instead of water, so it had a very rich, creamy, and heavy texture. And she loaded it with sugar and cocoa powder. It was intensely sweet. But the best part was what she put on top before she closed the lid of the insulated jug.
Let me guess. Mini marshmallows?
Exactly, a huge handful of tiny, soft, white marshmallows. By the time we walked to the pond and opened the jug to pour a cup, the hot liquid had completely melted the marshmallows. They turned into a thick, sticky layer of pure white sugar floating on top of the dark brown chocolate.
That sounds absolutely heavenly. The gooey marshmallow texture mixed with the smooth, hot liquid chocolate.
It was. You would take a sip and you would get the burning hot, sweet chocolate and the soft, sticky, melting marshmallow all at once. It was the perfect reward after a long afternoon of ice skating in the freezing wind.
It's fascinating to hear your stories, Paul. You can really trace your adult love for spicy chili and salty chips right back to the sharp black pepper soup and the rich flavors your mother made. And I can trace my love for sweet and salty cookies right back to my grandmother's syrup and bacon.
It is very true. We learn what brings us comfort when we are very young, and those flavor profiles stay with us. They become our default settings when we're stressed or tired as adults.
I think this is a great place to pause. We've taken a wonderful trip down memory lane and explored some truly delicious and descriptive words.
It really is wonderful how our childhood memories shape what we crave. But surely, as we grow older, our world gets a little bigger. We travel, we meet friends from all over the globe, and we try new things. Have you ever discovered a comfort food from a completely different culture that you absolutely love now?
Oh, absolutely, Paul. That is the beauty of food. It is a universal language. You do not need to speak the same language to understand that a dish is delicious and comforting. For me, the biggest discovery was when a friend introduced me to authentic Japanese ramen.
Japanese ramen, that is a fantastic example. It is incredibly popular all over the world now, and for a very good reason. It is the definition of a warm, comforting bowl of food. But it is very different from the chicken and wild rice soup my mother made. How would you describe the flavors in a really good bowl of ramen?
It is incredibly complex. The most important part of ramen is the broth, the hot liquid at the bottom of the bowl. My favorite type of ramen has a broth made from pork bones that boil for a very long time, sometimes for a whole day.
Boiling for a whole day, that must create a very strong flavor. Is it a salty broth?
It is salty, yes, but it is much more than just salty. In English, we use a special word borrowed from Japanese to describe this specific taste. We call it umami. Umami means a very deep, rich, and intensely savory flavor. It tastes like cooked meat or mushrooms. It makes your mouth water and makes you want to keep eating.
Savory and umami, those are excellent words for our listeners to remember. So the broth is very rich, heavy, and savory. But ramen has a lot of other ingredients in the bowl, right? How do the other parts add to the flavor?
That is the best part. You have long, chewy wheat noodles sitting in that hot, savory broth. The noodles themselves are quite plain, so they soak up all that rich pork flavor. Then they add a soft boiled egg on top.
A soft boiled egg, so the white part of the egg is firm, but the yellow center, the yolk, is still liquid and gooey.
Exactly. When you break the egg open with your chopsticks, the rich, sticky yellow yolk mixes into the salty broth and makes it even creamier. And finally, they add sliced green onions on top. The green onions give a very sharp, fresh, and slightly spicy bite that cuts right through the heavy, fatty pork broth.
Wow, you have the heavy, savory umami broth, the plain, chewy wheat noodles, the rich, creamy egg, and the sharp, fresh green onions. That is a masterpiece of flavor building. It sounds incredibly comforting, especially on a rainy evening.
It truly is. It warms your entire body from the inside. What about you, Paul? Have you adopted a comfort food from another culture that relies on completely different flavors?
I certainly have. A few years ago, I fell in love with a specific dish from Thailand. It's called Thai green curry. And let me tell you, it completely changed how I think about mixing sweet and spicy flavors together.
Thai green curry is wonderful, but it is famously spicy, isn't it? Knowing how much you love your spicy beef chili, I'm not surprised you chose this dish.
It is very spicy, but it's a completely different kind of heat. My chili uses dried red pepper powder, which is a dark, heavy spice. Thai green curry uses fresh green chilies. The heat from fresh green chilies is very bright, sharp, and intense. It hits your tongue immediately.
So it's a very fast, sharp heat. But curry usually has a lot of liquid. What makes the base of the curry?
The base is made of thick, pure coconut milk, and that's where the magic happens, Shirley. Coconut milk is naturally very sweet, smooth, and incredibly creamy. It has a heavy, milky texture that coats your mouth.
Ah, I see. So you have the extremely sharp, biting heat from the fresh green chilies crashing directly into the smooth, heavy sweetness of the coconut milk.
Exactly. It's a constant battle in your mouth. The green chili burns your tongue, but then the sweet, creamy coconut milk instantly cools it down and soothes the burn. And just to make things even more interesting, they add a little bit of fish sauce.
Fish sauce. That has a very distinct smell and taste. It's extremely salty, isn't it?
It is intensely salty and very savory, almost like the umami flavor you described in your ramen. So in one single bite of Thai green curry, you experience three massive flavors. You get the sharp, hot spice of the chili, you get the rich, soothing sweetness of the coconut milk, and you get the deep, savory saltiness of the fish sauce.
That is a perfect triangle of flavors: spicy, sweet, and salty. And it's all served over a bed of soft, plain jasmine rice to soak up the liquid, just like your mother's pancakes soaked up the syrup.
Exactly. The fluffy white rice acts like a sponge for all those intense flavors. It's a wonderfully comforting dish when you want something exotic but deeply satisfying.
It is amazing how different cultures find their own unique ways to balance sweet, salty, and spicy. But you know, Paul, sometimes we don't need a traditional recipe from a specific culture to find a great flavor combination. Sometimes we invent our own strange combinations right here at home.
Strange combinations? Are you talking about mixing foods that don't normally belong together?
I am. Sometimes the most comforting foods are the ones that sound a little bit crazy to other people. I have a secret comfort food combination that some people think is very strange, but I absolutely love it.
Oh, you have to tell me now. I'm very open-minded when it comes to food. What is this strange combination?
Okay, don't laugh. When I've had a very long, stressful day and I just want a quick treat, I go to a fast food drive-thru. I order a large portion of hot, fresh French fries and a regular vanilla milkshake.
French fries and a vanilla milkshake. Okay, I'm listening, but you don't eat them separately, do you?
No, I don't. I take a hot, greasy, salty French fry and I dip it directly into the freezing cold, sweet vanilla milkshake.
You dip the hot potato into the cold ice cream. That is a very famous but very unusual combination, Shirley. Why does it work so well for you?
It works because it's a massive collision of opposites. First, there's a temperature difference. You have the burning hot fry and the freezing cold milkshake. Then there's the texture. The fry is crispy on the outside and soft on the inside, while the milkshake is smooth, thick, and creamy.
And the flavors. You're mixing intense salt with heavy sugar again.
Exactly. Fast food French fries are heavily salted and slightly greasy. When you push that salty, savory fry into the sweet, milky vanilla cream, it creates a flavor explosion. The salt makes the vanilla taste even richer, and the cold milkshake cools down the hot, greasy potato. It's salty, sweet, hot, cold, crispy, and smooth, all in one single bite.
You know, Shirley, when you describe it using all those fantastic adjectives, it doesn't sound strange at all. It actually sounds like a very scientifically perfect comfort food.
You're hitting every single flavor and texture requirement at the exact same time.
It's my guilty pleasure for sure. It's not fancy like a slow-cooked stew or a traditional ramen, but it brings me a lot of comfort and a little bit of joy. And sometimes that's exactly what food is supposed to do.
I completely agree. Whether it's a bowl of spicy chili that takes hours to cook or a quick French fry dipped in a cold milkshake, the best comfort food is simply the food that makes you feel good.
That's a wonderful thought, Paul. And I think we still have a few more flavors and food situations to explore.
You are absolutely right, Shirley. Comfort food does not have to be fancy or follow traditional rules. But you mentioned earlier that you love eating your warm, heavy brownies on a cold day. That makes me think about how the weather completely changes the types of food our bodies crave.
Oh, the weather plays a massive role in our food choices, Paul. It is impossible to ignore. When it is freezing outside, all I want is heavy, hot, and rich food. But when it's the middle of July and the sun is beating down, a heavy bowl of hot soup sounds terrible.
Exactly. In the middle of a hot summer, our bodies want to cool down, not warm up. We crave foods that are light, refreshing, and hydrating. When the weather gets incredibly hot, my entire comfort food menu changes completely.
I am very curious about your summer comfort foods, Paul. You love spicy hot chili and heavy roasted almonds. What do you eat when the temperature is 90 degrees outside and the air is thick and humid?
When it is hot and humid, I leave the spicy chili behind. My favorite summer comfort food is actually very sweet, incredibly juicy, and extremely cold. I love eating thick slices of ice-cold, fresh watermelon.
Watermelon! That is the perfect summer food. It is mostly water, so it's extremely hydrating and refreshing.
Yes, it is very refreshing, but of course, I cannot just eat it plain. I have a very specific way I like to prepare it, and it brings back those childhood memories we talked about earlier. I take the cold, bright red watermelon and I sprinkle a tiny bit of coarse sea salt right on top of the sweet fruit.
You put salt on your watermelon? Paul, you really are a master of the sweet and salty combination. Does the salt make the fruit taste strange?
Not at all. Just like your chocolate chip cookies, the salt actually makes the sweet, sugary flavor of the watermelon taste much stronger. The fruit is very crisp and watery. When you take a bite, the cold, sweet juice mixes with the sharp, dry salt. It wakes up your taste buds and cools your entire body down immediately.
That sounds incredibly crisp and cooling. I will have to try adding a little salt to my watermelon next time. The texture of watermelon is very unique too. It's crunchy when you first bite it, but then it instantly melts into liquid in your mouth.
Exactly. It's a very light texture. It does not sit heavily in your stomach like a thick soup or a gooey brownie does. What about you, Shirley? When the summer heat is unbearable, what is your go-to comfort meal?
For me, summer comfort food is all about being outside. I love the smell of charcoal grill in the backyard. So my ultimate hot weather comfort meal is a plate of sticky, smoky barbecue chicken served with a large scoop of cold, creamy potato salad.
Barbecue chicken and potato salad. That is a classic summer combination. The contrast between hot and cold on the same plate is always a winner. Let's talk about the chicken first. How do you describe that barbecue flavor?
The flavor is very intense. The chicken is cooked slowly over a hot fire, so the outside gets slightly burned and very crispy. That gives it a strong, woody, smoky flavor. But then you cover the chicken in a thick, dark red barbecue sauce.
And barbecue sauce is usually very sweet, right?
It is very sweet, but it's also very tangy. Tangy is a great word for our listeners to learn. Tangy means a flavor that is a little bit sour and a little bit sweet at the same time, like a lemon or a tomato. The sauce is thick and sticky, so it covers your fingers while you eat it. You get the smoky, crispy meat and the sweet, tangy, sticky sauce all together.
That sounds wonderfully messy and delicious. The sticky texture of the sauce and the smoky flavor of the meat sound very rich. So how does the cold potato salad balance that out?
The potato salad is the perfect cooling side dish. The potatoes are boiled until they're very soft and tender. Then they're mixed with a huge amount of cold, creamy mayonnaise, a little bit of yellow mustard, and chopped, crunchy celery.
So you have the hot, sticky, sweet chicken, and then you take a bite of the cold, mild, soft, and creamy potato salad.
Yes, the cold mayonnaise instantly cools down the heat from the hot chicken. The soft, creamy potatoes are very mild and soothing, and the crunchy celery adds a sharp, fresh bite that cuts through the heavy barbecue sauce. It's the perfect balance of temperatures, textures, and flavors.
It's amazing how we naturally pair foods together to create balance. Hot and cold, sweet and tangy, crispy and creamy. We don't even think about it. Our bodies just know what tastes good together.
It is very true, and the seasons dictate a lot of that. In the winter, we want to build a fire inside us with hot, spicy, and heavy foods. In the summer, we want to put the fire out with cold, refreshing, and crisp foods.
I completely agree. And sometimes the transition between seasons brings its own special comfort foods. Think about the autumn season when the air just starts to get cool and crisp and the leaves change color. That season has its own very specific set of flavors.
Oh, autumn flavors are my absolute favorite, Paul. As soon as the air gets chilly, I completely forget about watermelon and barbecue. All I want is the taste of warm spices.
Warm spices, that's a great category. What do you mean by warm spices?
Warm spices are spices that make you feel cozy and heated, but they're not burning hot like a chili pepper. I'm talking about cinnamon, nutmeg, and cloves. They have a very deep, woody, and slightly sweet scent.
I know exactly what you mean. The smell of cinnamon baking in the oven is the official smell of autumn. So what is your favorite autumn comfort food that uses those warm spices?
Without a hesitation, it is a freshly baked, warm apple pie, but it has to have a very thick, flaky crust.
A flaky crust. That's a fantastic texture word. Flaky means the pastry easily breaks apart into tiny, thin, crispy layers, right?
Exactly. The crust is rich and buttery, and when you cut into it with a fork, it shatters into 100 crispy, flaky pieces. And inside that flaky crust is a huge mound of hot, soft, cooked apples.
And the apples are mixed with the warm spices, of course.
Yes, the apples are naturally sweet and a little tart or sour. When you bake them with brown sugar, warm cinnamon, and spicy nutmeg, they break down and become incredibly soft, almost like a thick jam. The sweet, spiced apple juice bubbles up and makes the bottom of the crust a little bit gooey.
So you have the very crispy, dry, flaky crust on top and the hot, soft, sweet, and gooey spiced apples inside. That sounds like the perfect way to welcome the cold weather.
It truly is. It makes you want to put on a thick sweater and watch the leaves fall from the trees. Food has such a powerful ability to connect us to the time of year.
It really does. It anchors us to the present moment and helps us celebrate the changings of the seasons. You are so right, Shirley. The seasons really do tell us what to eat. But you know, there is another time when our bodies completely take over and demand a very specific type of food, and it has nothing to do with the weather outside.
Oh, what time is that, Paul?
It is when we are not feeling well, when we catch a cold or have a sore throat or just feel weak and tired. The foods we crave when we are sick are a totally different category of comfort food.
That is a brilliant point. When we are sick, we do not want heavy, rich barbecue, and we certainly do not want extremely spicy chili. Our stomachs cannot handle intense, heavy flavors. We need food that is soothing.
Soothing is the perfect word. It means something that makes you feel calm, gentle, and relieves pain. When my throat is sore, the first thing I want is a huge ceramic cup of hot tea.
Tea is incredibly soothing. Do you drink plain black tea or do you add things to it?
I have to add things to it. Plain black tea can be a little bit bitter. When I am sick, I make a very special hot drink. I boil fresh ginger root in water for a long time. Ginger has a very sharp, zesty, and slightly spicy flavor, but it's a clean spice, not a heavy chili spice.
Ginger is wonderful for an upset stomach. It has a very bright, almost citrus flavor.
Yes, it is very bright. Then I squeeze a whole fresh lemon into the hot ginger water. The lemon is extremely sour and acidic. And finally, to balance the sharp ginger and the sour lemon, I stir in a huge spoonful of thick, raw honey.
Honey is nature's medicine. It is incredibly thick, sticky, and sugary sweet. It coats your sore throat and takes the pain away.
Exactly. The honey makes the sharp, sour drink taste smooth and sweet. It is the perfect liquid comfort. I pour it into my large ceramic cup, wrap my hands around it to stay warm, and sip it very slowly. It completely clears my head.
Notice how you said a large ceramic cup, Paul. You always need a warm vessel to hold on to. It's part of the healing process. For me, liquid comfort is important, but I also need something solid in my stomach when I'm sick. However, it has to be very bland.
Bland is a great vocabulary word for our listeners. Bland means food that does not have a strong taste. It is not spicy, not salty, and not sweet. It is very plain.
Exactly. When you are sick, bland food is your best friend. My ultimate sick day comfort food is very simple. Plain, dry, white toast and a small bowl of unsweetened applesauce.
Toast and applesauce. That is very gentle on the stomach. Let's talk about the toast. You said dry toast, so no rich yellow butter or sweet jam?
Absolutely nothing on it, just the bread. I toast it until it is very pale brown and very dry. The texture is important here. It needs to be crunchy, but a very light crunch. It absorbs the extra acid in your stomach and settles everything down. The plain toasted wheat flavor is very grounding.
And the applesauce, that provides the moisture, right?
Yes, the dry toast makes you thirsty, so the cold applesauce is very refreshing. Applesauce is just apples that are cooked down until they become a smooth, wet puree. It's naturally a little bit sweet, but mostly it's just cold, smooth, and very easy to swallow.
It sounds like the perfect combination of dry and wet and crunchy and smooth without overwhelming your taste buds with strong spices or heavy fats.
It really is. It's food as medicine. It doesn't excite you, but it heals you. It's fascinating how our definition of comfort changes depending on what our body physically needs in that exact moment.
That is very true, Shirley. Sometimes comfort means excitement, like the sharp, burning heat of Thai green curry. And sometimes comfort means absolute calm, like a simple piece of dry toast.
Speaking of calm and healing, I think there's one more category of comfort food we have to talk about. These are the foods that we might not eat every single day or even every month. We only eat them on very specific days of the year, usually with our families.
Ah, you are talking about holiday foods and family traditions. That's a massive part of comfort.
Yes, traditional foods carry the weight of history and family love. When you eat a traditional holiday meal, you're not just tasting the ingredients, you're tasting your childhood, your grandparents, and all your happy memories at once.
That's beautifully said, Shirley. Do you have a specific traditional food that brings you that immense feeling of comfort and connection?
I do. In my family, every single year on the first day of the new year, we make a huge pot of black-eyed peas and tender leafy greens. It's supposed to bring you good luck and money for the rest of the year.
Black-eyed peas and greens. That's a very classic, comforting tradition. Describe the flavors for the listeners. What do black-eyed peas taste like?
They're a type of small bean. They have a very earthy, creamy, and slightly nutty flavor. We cook them very slowly for hours with a piece of smoked meat, so they absorb a deep, savory, and woody flavor. The texture becomes incredibly soft and smooth. They almost melt in your mouth.
And the leafy greens? How do they balance the soft, creamy beans?
The greens are slightly bitter. We use collard greens, which have thick, dark green leaves. Even after cooking them for a long time, they keep a little bit of a chewy texture. The bitter taste of the greens cuts right through the heavy, creamy, salty flavor of the beans.
So you get creamy and chewy and savory and bitter. And of course, the most important part is that you're eating it surrounded by the people you love.
Exactly. The food is delicious, but the true comfort comes from knowing that my mother made it and her mother made it, and we're all sitting at the same table sharing it together. It's a very deep emotional comfort.
That's what makes traditional food so special. It connects us to the past.
What about your family, Paul? Do you have a holiday dish that instantly makes you feel connected and comforted?
We definitely do. In my family, the biggest comfort food tradition happens during the winter holidays. My father spends the entire day in the kitchen roasting a massive, heavy piece of beef. But the real star of the meal is not the meat. It's what we serve it with, Yorkshire pudding.
Yorkshire pudding? I've heard of that, but I've never actually tried it. The word pudding usually means a sweet, creamy dessert in English. Is Yorkshire pudding sweet?
That's a great point, Shirley. It is very confusing. In this case, it is not a sweet dessert at all. It's actually a savory baked pastry made from a very simple batter of eggs, flour, and milk.
Oh, I see. So it's more like a bread or a roll. How does it taste?
The flavor is very simple, buttery, and rich, but the texture is the incredible part. You pour the liquid batter into a pan with smoking hot oil. When it bakes, it puffs up incredibly high. The outside becomes dark brown, very crispy and dry.
And the inside?
The inside is mostly hollow, but the bottom is soft, spongy, and slightly chewy. So you have this tall pastry that's loud and crunchy on the outside and soft and chewy on the inside.
That sounds fantastic. How do you eat it with the beef?
You use the soft, spongy part of the Yorkshire pudding to soak up all the rich, salty, dark brown gravy from the roasted beef. The pastry acts like a sponge for all the savory meat juices. Eating that crispy, gravy-soaked pastry while sitting around a crowded, noisy table with my whole family is my ultimate definition of comfort.
It sounds like a perfect holiday memory, Paul. It's amazing how food brings people together.
It really is, Shirley. Traditional food is amazing, and those family recipes will always hold a special place in our hearts. But as time goes on, things change. People love to experiment in the kitchen.
That is very true, Paul. We still love the classic flavors, but sometimes we want to create something completely new. We call this a modern twist.
A modern twist. That is a great phrase. It means taking an old familiar recipe and changing it just a little bit to make it fresh and exciting.
Exactly. Sometimes people change a recipe to make it healthier, and other times people combine two totally different comfort foods to make one giant crazy meal. We call that a food mashup.
A food mashup, like putting two things together that normally do not belong together. Do you have a favorite comfort food mashup, Shirley?
I definitely do. Remember how we talked about the gooey, melted cheese of a grilled cheese sandwich? And everyone knows the rich, savory flavor of a classic slice of pizza.
Of course, pizza is a universal comfort food. The chewy crust, the sweet and acidic tomato sauce, and the heavy, salty cheese.
Well, a few years ago, I tried a macaroni and cheese pizza.
Macaroni and cheese on a pizza? That sounds incredibly heavy.
It is very heavy, Paul. It is definitely not a light summer meal. They take a regular, chewy pizza crust, but instead of tomato sauce, they use a thick, creamy cheese sauce. Then they put soft, boiled macaroni knolls right on top of the pizza.
So you have the chewy bread crust, the creamy cheese sauce, and the soft pasta noodles all in one bite. That is a lot of different carbohydrates.
It is a massive amount of carbohydrates, but the texture is unbelievable. The bottom of the pizza crust is very crispy and dry from the hot oven, but the top is a mountain of soft, gooey, wet macaroni and cheese, and they usually sprinkle crispy breadcrumbs on top for an extra crunch.
I have to admit, that sounds like a very fun modern twist. You get the crunch of the pizza and the soft, creamy comfort of the pasta. It is a brilliant mashup.
It is a lot of fun to eat. What about you, Paul? Do you have a modern twist on a classic comfort food that you enjoy?
I do, and mine is actually a healthier twist on a very famous heavy comfort food. You know how much I love spicy food and crunchy textures.
Yes, your spicy beef chili and your roasted almonds are legendary by now.
Well, one of the most popular spicy comfort foods in America is buffalo chicken wings. They are deep-fried chicken pieces covered in a burning hot, sour, and spicy orange sauce.
Buffalo wings are very popular, especially when watching sports, but they are very greasy and heavy because they are deep fried in oil.
Exactly. The meat is heavy and the skin is very greasy. So, my modern twist replaces the chicken completely. Instead of chicken, I use fresh cauliflower.
Cauliflower, that is a white vegetable. It has a very mild, plain flavor. How do you make a plain vegetable taste like a spicy, greasy chicken wing?
It is all about the preparation, Shirley. I cut the cauliflower into small pieces. Then I cover the pieces in a very simple wet batter made from flour and water. I bake them in a very hot oven until the outside batter becomes incredibly loud, dry, and crunchy.
So you get that important crunchy texture without deep frying it in heavy oil. That is very smart.
Yes, the outside is extremely crunchy, but the inside becomes very soft, tender, and steaming hot. Because the cauliflower is plain and bland, it acts like a blank canvas.
A blank canvas, meaning it will soak up any flavor you put on it.
Precisely. Once they are crunchy and hot, I cover them completely in that famous spicy buffalo sauce. The sauce is made with hot red peppers and sour white vinegar. It's a very sharp, acidic heat.
So the sauce is spicy and sour, and how does it feel when you eat it?
You pick up this bright orange piece of cauliflower. Your teeth break through the wet, spicy sauce, and then you hear a loud crunch from the baked batter. Finally, you reach the soft, plain, warm vegetable inside. It gives you the exact same satisfying feeling as eating a chicken wing, but it's much lighter on your stomach.
That is a perfect example of a modern twist, Paul. You kept the spicy, sour flavor and the crunchy, soft texture that people love, but you completely changed the main ingredient. It shows how creative cooking can be today.
It really does. People are finding ways to enjoy their favorite comfort flavors like sweet, salty, and spicy while adapting to new diets and lifestyles.
Whether it's a giant, heavy macaroni and cheese pizza or a light, spicy cauliflower wing, the goal is always the same. We want food that makes us feel happy, satisfied, and relaxed.
And I think that's the perfect thought to carry us into the final part of our discussion today. It really is, Shirley. The goal of comfort food is always to bring a little bit of happiness into our daily lives. And I think we have definitely proven that today with all of these amazing descriptions.
We really have traveled all over the map of flavors today, Paul. We started with your incredibly spicy, burning hot, and savory beef chili with those very salty, crunchy tortilla chips.
And then we immediately cooled things down with your absolutely amazing sweet, sugary chocolate chip cookies topped with that sharp, clean sea salt. I am still thinking about dunking those warm, gooey cookies into a glass of ice-cold milk.
Oh, I might have to bake a batch as soon as we finish recording today. But we also explored so many other fantastic words to describe what we eat. We talked about the sharp, bright sourness of hot and sour soup. We discussed the deep, rich, and heavy umami flavor of traditional Japanese ramen broth.
We even talked about the textures that make food so satisfying. The loud, dry crunch of roasted almonds on a long road trip, the soft, spongy texture of pancakes soaking up sticky maple syrup, and, of course, the gooey, stretchy, melted cheddar cheese inside a buttery, crispy grilled cheese sandwich.
Just listing all of these foods makes my mouth water. It shows just how powerful the English language is when you want to share an experience. When you use words like bitter, tangy, creamy, and flaky, you are not just telling someone what you ate, you are painting a picture for them. You are letting them taste the food through your words.
That is beautifully said, Shirley, and that is exactly what we want our listeners to practice. The next time you sit down to eat your favorite meal, whether it is a bland, soothing piece of dry toast when you are sick or a heavy, sweet slice of apple pie in the autumn, try to describe it. Ask yourself, is it salty? Is it sweet? Is it spicy? Is it crunchy or smooth?
It is a wonderful daily exercise. And you know, Paul, before we say goodbye to our listeners today, I have one final, very difficult question for you.
Oh boy, I am ready. What is the question?
If you had to choose just one single comfort food from everything we talked about today, and you could only eat that one comfort food for the rest of your life, what would it be?
Oh, that is an incredibly difficult question, Shirley. How can I choose between my mother's creamy chicken and wild rice soup and my spicy heavy beef chili?
You have to choose just one.
All right. If I truly have to choose just one, I think I have to go back to my ultimate favorite. It has to be a giant steaming bowl of my homemade beef chili. The combination of the deep savory meat, the burning spicy heat of the red peppers, the loud crunch of the salty tortilla chips, and the soft, sweet, buttery cornbread on the side. It is just the perfect, complete meal for me. It hits every single flavor: savory, spicy, salty, and sweet. What about you, Shirley? What is your final answer?
Well, my sweet tooth is very strong, as you know. I love the warm, gooey fudge brownies with freezing cold, smooth vanilla ice cream. I love the sweet, tangy barbecue chicken. But if I have to pick the one thing that brings me the most pure comfort, it is the classic sweet and salty combination.
The chocolate chip cookies with sea salt?
Yes, exactly. A warm, soft, sugary chocolate chip cookie with that sharp bite of crunchy sea salt on top, served with a mug of hot, bitter coffee. The balance of sweet, salty, and bitter is something I could never get tired of eating. It feels like a warm hug on a rainy day.
That is a wonderful choice, Shirley. And I think that wraps up our very first episode of the Daily Life series perfectly. We have shared our stories, our memories, and our favorite flavors with everyone today.
We certainly have. We want to thank every single one of you for joining us on this delicious journey today. We hope you learned some new words to describe your meals, and we hope you are inspired to think about the foods that bring you peace and happiness.
Thank you for tuning in to Learn English Quick Hub. We are so glad you spent this hour with us, whether you are driving in your car, riding on a train, or just relaxing in your living room. Remember to keep practicing your English every single day, even when you are just sitting at the dinner table.
That's right. Keep listening, keep speaking, and keep exploring the wonderful world of English. Have a fantastic day, everyone, and go enjoy something delicious.
Until next time, this is Paul Hauser and Shirley Jones signing off from Learn English Quick Hub. Goodbye, everyone.
Goodbye.